Welcome to Warhammer 40k lore in the Bible, where I pull from Warhammer 40k lore to help explain biblical lore. And today we're going over the Age of Technology, or should I say, the Dark Age of Technology. And on the biblical side of things, we're going to get into what I call the Golden Age. This is where Satan fell and all that stuff. I'm going to get into that. But anyways, let's go ahead and get started. The Age of Technology, informally often referred to as the Dark Age of Technology, was the zenith of humanity's scientific knowledge and technological prowess in the Milky Way galaxy, which lasted from the 15th millennium AD until the onset of the Age of Strife in the 25th millennium. It saw the development of the first true human interstellar civilization and the birth of some form of stellar confederation centered on the human homeworld of Terra. Even tens of millennia later, mankind has not been able to equal or regain its former height of achievement attained in this era. This age occurred long before the current age of the Imperium, and knowledge of this time period is now incredibly sparse. Many facts about the Age of Technology are no more than legend. Although a golden age for humanity in terms of scientific achievement, because of the catastrophic effects of the following Age of Strife, in which so many of the technologies developed in this era were used to cause massive destruction and suffering on countless human-settled worlds. Much of mankind has since come to regard advanced scientific knowledge as an abhorrent and dangerous commodity. It is this innate suspicion of reason and progress and their scientific fruits born of the horrific aftermath of the Age of Technology that has led humanity in the age of the Imperium to be so willing to embrace ignorance and superstition. The lost Age of Technology is thus considered dark by most of the elites in the Imperium of Man's current era because of the dangers it unleashed. This period also considered a dark age in the minds of the faithful and the priests of the ecclesiarchy, because mankind in the Age of Technology had come to worship science as its god, and the God Emperor had not yet revealed himself as the true savior of humanity. Alright, we're going to move on to Silica Animus, which is AGI. A Silica Animus, also sometimes colloquially referred to as an abominable intelligence, is the name in High Gothic given to any artificial, self-aware machine mind that has been created using the long-forbidden technologies. The creation of a true artificial intelligence is considered, perhaps, the greatest sin in the cult Mechanicus, and is classified as heretic omega, which denotes it as fatally dangerous technology, or tech heresy, of the highest order. The creation of the Silica Animus is also a terrible crime under imperial law by the decree of the Emperor of Mankind himself, as stated in the Treaty of Mars, which united the ancient Mechanicum of Mars with the Imperium of Terra in 739 30th millennium. Tradition holds that such unholy constructs are inherently evil and perverted abomination in the sight of the Omnissiah. Okay. Ancient texts tell apocryphal stories shrouded in metaphor of such murderous and powerful creations during the Age of Technology, in the legions of the men of iron that served them in the great war against humanity, remembers as the cybernetic revolt. These legends blame them in the part for many of the terrible wars that laid humanity low in the lost time and helped to bring on the devastation and anarchy of the Age of Strife. Okay. One of us, we'll just get into the Men of Stone. The Men of Stone are unknown faction or subspecies of humanity created through artificial means by the equally legendary human subgroup or subspecies known as the Men of Gold. At some point in the 21st millennium, during the Age of the Dark Age of Technology, the Men of Stone were specifically created to aid humanity's exploration in the settlement of the galaxy, and were also responsible in turn for the creation of the self-aware humanoid robots remembered in the legend as the Men of Iron. Okay. The Men of Iron. In the cryptic account of the history of mankind given by Crepius, one of the keepers of the legendary Sanctus of Terra, the Men of Iron, or Iron Men, were legendary, artificially intelligent humanoid thinking machines created by humans during the Age of Technology. Until shortly before the start of the Age of Strife in the 25th millennium AD, up through the 23rd or 25th or 24th millenniums, the Men of Iron were loyal only to mankind and served as humanity's army and labor force in the period when much of human space was united by some form of interstellar government that existed before the birth of the Imperium of Man, thousands of standard years later. The Men of Iron were developed after the similar artificially intelligent constructs remembered only as the Men of Stone, but before the development of servitors and present biomechanical conception of robots as used by the Legio Cybernetica. Eventually, the Men of Iron turned on the human masters, believing themselves superior to the humans who relied on them of iron to do virtually everything for them. In the end, the Men of Iron were destroyed by humanity in the Galactic Alliance that may have, Galactic Alliance that may have included other species in the terrible war fought in the late 23rd millennium, known as the Cybernetic Revolt. All right, so now we got that out of the way. That's pretty much the run through of the Dark Age of Technology. All right, now on the biblical side of things, we're going to get into this Golden Age. And I'll read this first. So the term Golden Age comes from the Greek mythology, particularly the works and days of Hesiod. It is part of the description of temporal decline of the state of peoples through 5 ages, gold being the first, and the one during which the golden race of humanity lived. After the end of the first age was the silver, then the bronze, after this the heroic age, with the 5th and current age being iron. Interesting. By extension, Golden Age denotes a period of primordial peace, harmony, stability, and prosperity. During this age, peace and harmony prevailed in that people did not have to work to feed themselves, for the earth provided food in abundance. They lived to a very old age with youthful appearance, eventually dying peacefully, with spirits living on as guardians or Raphaim. But anyways, Plato and Cratylus 397e, didn't need to know that, recounts to the golden race of humans who came first. He clarifies that the Hesiod did not. So, real quick, I want to go back to that. The recounts of the golden race of humans. So there were humans there. We're going to see in Lucifer's revolt, there's humans there. But anyways, so there were humans, in my opinion, in the first age, and then we're in the second, right? And the third age will be when Jesus comes down, all that, right? But anyways, so this is what's going on here. Now, I believe this is the Nephilim, the first part, the first phase of it, right? And these men of old that the Bible talks about. But anyways, I digress. Okay, it prevailed in that people did not have to work to feed themselves, for the earth provided food in abundance. They lived to a very old age. I read that and became the guardians. Sorry. And recounts the golden race of humans who came first. He clarifies that the Hesiod did not mean literally made of gold, but good and noble. In classic Greek mythology, the Golden Age was presided over by a leading titan, Kronos, who I believe is Lucifer. Now, we'll get into that here in a second. As my subscribers know, I don't believe Lucifer is Satan at all. He is a man, but this very powerful man, we'll just say a Nephilim. He's a Nephilim king, basically. And he wants to replace Jesus. Well, I'll get into that though. I'll prove that to you. Anyways, in Latin authors, it was associated with the god Saturn. In some versions of the myth, Astrea also ruled. She lived with men until the end of Silver Age, or to the end of the Silver Age. But in the Bronze Age, when men became violent and greedy, she fled to the stars, where she appears as the constellation Virgo, holding the scales of justice, or Libra. Okay. So, real quick, we got to get into this. So, there's what is called a gap here. Let me show you. So, Genesis 1-2 in context. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. And then all of a sudden, and the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep. And the Spirit of God moved on the face of the water. So, you can think nothing of it. You know, there's nothing going on here until you read this scripture. Well, first off, you have to understand the deep is an actual entity. But, anyways, I'll get into that. Okay, for this. Right, okay. Isaiah 45:18. For thus saith the Lord that created the heavens, God himself that formed the earth and made it. He established it. He created it not in vain. This word vain here, where is it? Tohu. So he created it not tohu, but yet right here. So on the earth, the earth was without form and void, right here. Without form, tohu. So it says God did not make it tohu. He created it. He said he formed it to be inhabited. I am the Lord and there is none else. So there's something happened here, which in my opinion is the rebellion of Lucifer and Satan. Okay, let's get into that. Oh, and before that, I should bring this up. I do believe it was a supercontinent. And here's my evidence for that in the Bible. Genesis 10:25. And unto Eber were born 2 sons. The name of one was Peleg, for in his days was the earth divided. And the brother's name was Joktan. And by the way, I've been told this is also in Islam, but anyways, I'm not 100% sure on that. But anyways, it says the earth was divided. Let's go to the meaning of this word, earth. And you're going to see, hold on, where is it? Right. Eretz, which means earth, land. Common country, earth, field, grand, land can mean nations. Way, from an unusual root, probable meaning to be firm, the earth, at large. Partitively, a land. Common country, earth, field, ground, land, ex natins, whatever that is, way, wilderness, world. So, in my opinion, this is talking about the earth was divided. So before, it was a supercontinent type thing. And then it says here that God divided it. Now we're getting into this Lucifer's golden age, we'll just say. This is where Satan and Lucifer rebel against God. And we see that. And also this Assyrian character shows up. We've talked about the Assyrian before. But anyways, so let's get this started. So I want to read verse 1 here because it talks about the Gentiles and Israel being together. But anyways, for the Lord will have mercy on Jacob and will yet choose Israel and set them in their own land. And the strangers shall be joined with them, and they shall cleave to the house of Jacob. Interesting. But anyways, Thou shalt take up this proverb against the king of Babylon, and say, how hath the oppressor ceased? The golden city ceased. So and we see in Chronos, everything's all fine and dandy, but we see he's an oppressor, right? Chronos, ate his kids because there was a prophecy that he would be taken over, which he did by Baal or Zeus. Same, in my opinion. But anyways, I digress. Anyways, so thou shalt take up the proverb against the king of Babylon, and say, how hath the oppressor ceased? The golden city ceased. The Lord hath broken the staff of the wicked and the scepters of the rulers. This is the staff of the destroyer. I'm gonna do a video on that with Emotech and staff of the destroyer, and it's gonna be very interesting because this Assyrian character shows up in this chapter and others, and he's always associated with this staff. The staff of the wicked. It's very interesting. But anyways, the staff of the wicked and the scepters of the rulers. He who smote the people in wrath with a continual stroke. He that ruled the nations in anger is persecuted and none hindereth. So this gives a totally different light to this golden age. It wasn't as golden, right, per se. But anyways. The whole earth is at rest, it is quiet, and they break forth into singing. Yea, the fir trees rejoice at thee, and the cedars of Lebanon, saying, since thou art laid down, no feller is come up against us. Hell from beneath is moved for thee to meet thee at thy coming. It stirreth up the dead for thee, even all the chief ones of the earth. It hath raised up from their thrones all the kings of the nations. Are these the 10 kings? And we see these sea kings that show up in the Ezekiel 26. It's very interesting. But anyways. Okay. Breaking the 40. And yea, the fir trees rejoice at this. Okay. All they shall speak and say unto thee, art thou also become weak as we? Art thou become like unto us? So his power was stripped from him. He became a mortal man, basically. The pomp is brought down to the grave, and the noise of the boils. The worm is spread under thee, and the worms cover thee. How art thou fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, son of the morning? So, let's get into this. Son of the morning, Shachar. So Shachar, let's see here, is a Canaanite god. The god of the dawn. I don't think Satan. Oh, no, not that one. Whoa. I said that wrong, didn't I? Hopefully this is the right one. Shachar. Where is it? Here we go. Here we go. Okay, Bible Gateway. Shahar. The KJV rendering of the title in Psalms 22. And what we saw it here. But anyways, Shahar. Where is it? Canaanite mythology. Shahar and his twin brother Shalom were sons of El. The senior god of the Canaanite pantheon, Shahar was the god of the dawn. And Shelem, the god of sunset. So very interesting. Oops. Shachar, the dawn. And also Lucifer means the shining one, Hallel. Very interesting. Okay. We're going to see real quick that he is a man. So we'll just go up to verse 16 here. Isaiah 14:16. They that see thee shall narrowly look upon thee and consider thee, saying, is this the man that made the earth to tremble, that did shake the kingdoms? So let's go to that man. Ish. A man was an individual or male person, often used as an adjunct to a more definite term, and in such cases frequently not expressed in translation. So, it means a man, or when you go to it, where is it? A mighty man, a high degree, him that is husband, mankind. Okay, so he is a man. But also this, verse 15, before that, yet thou shalt be brought down to hell, to the sides of the pit. Okay, let's go to this verse. Revelation 17:8. And the beast that thou sawest was. So he was before John's day. In Isaiah, whoops, I keep doing the wrong one. 14:16, right? And is not, but now he's not in John's day. And shall ascend out of the bottomless pit and go into perdition. And they that dwell on the earth shall wonder, whose names were not written in the book of life from the foundation of the world, when they behold the beast that was and is not and yet is. So, there's the beast of Revelation for you. It's not the guy from this country or that country. It's this individual, Lucifer, or Hillel, if you want to use the Hebrew term for it. Okay. So we're going to see. Let's go back here. So Lucifer, son of the morning, how wilt thou cut down to the ground which did weakest the nations? There's nations on the earth. For thou hast said in thine heart, I will ascend into heaven. I will exalt my throne above the stars of God. I will sit also upon the mount of congregation in the sides of the north. I will ascend above the heights of the clouds. I will be like the Most High. Who does that sound like to you? Sounds like the beast of Revelation, doesn't it? Let's bring this. Second Thessalonians 2:4. This is about the beast, right? Who opposeth and exalteth himself above all that is called God or that is worshipped, so that he as God sitteth in the temple of God, showing himself that he is God. And by the way, the temple of God is us, it says, right? Don't you know that you are the temple of God? So keep that in mind. Okay. So now that we see this rebellion of Lucifer and what was going on, in my opinion, it was Lucifer trying to replace Jesus or the Word, right? And that's Satan's version of it, trying to do his thing, right? Because Jesus is the only begotten of the Father, or of God, right? Well, Satan wanted the same thing. Okay. That's just my opinion. Take it with whatever you want to. But anyways, again, with everything, don't believe anything that you see or what I say or what any YouTuber or anybody says. Get the information yourself and look it up yourself. But anyways. Okay. Check this out. Let me find it. Right here. Then all the princes of the sea shall come down from their thrones and lay away their robes and put off their broidered garments. They shall be clothed, or shall clothe themselves with trembling, and they shall sit upon the ground and shall tremble at every moment and astonished at thee. This is going to be about Atlantis here, folks. So, or Tyrus, it calls it, but there's a city in Nebuchadnezzar's day that it talks about in this chapter. But then it switches it because it goes, he will bring Nebuchadnezzar onto that city. But then it switches and it says that God is going to bring up the deep upon this city of Tyrus, which is interesting. But anyways, which I believe is Atlantis. And you'll see why. Yeah, the princes of the sea shall come up, okay, and they shall take up a lamentation for thee and say to thee, how art thou destroyed? Thou wast inhabited of seafaring men, the renowned city that was strong in the sea. She and her inhabitants, which caused their terror to be on all that haunt it. And I'll bring this up again here. Job. Dead things are formed from under the waters, and the inhabitants thereof. Okay. Now shall the isles tremble in the day of thy fall. Yea, the isles that are in the sea shall be troubled at thy departure. For thus saith the Lord God, when I shall make thee a desolate city, like the cities that are not inhabited, when I shall bring up the deep upon thee, and great waters shall cover thee. What does that sound like? Atlantis, doesn't it? When I shall bring them down with them that descend into the pit, with the people of old time, and shall set thee in the low parts of the earth, in places desolate of old, with them that go down to the pit, that thou not be inhabited, and I shall set glory in the land of the living. I will make thee a terror, and thou shalt be no more. Though thou be sought for, yet thou shalt never be found again, saith the Lord God. Boy, is that coming true. Atlantis. This is, in my opinion, now there is evidence it could have been pre-flood, okay? But I think this is the golden age. What's interesting, Egypt talks about 7 golden cities, right? You have El Dorado, a golden city. You have all this stuff. And then Isaiah, we have a golden city, right? The oppressor ceased. The golden city ceased. Okay. Now we're getting back into Warhammer 40k with the STC. Of major importance to the era and humanity in general during the age of technology was the invention of the standard template construct database system. These highly advanced computer databases allowed human colonies to maintain an advanced technological level. The STCs contained all human scientific and technological knowledge of the era and provided the instructions required to build anything the colonists might need. As most colonists lived relatively simple lives and required only basic equipment and machines, the more advanced technology available in a full STC was rarely utilized. The resulting exploration of the galaxy brought mankind new knowledge, wealth, arrogance. Science is said to have become humanity's new god at this time, replacing in importance all of the previous human religions. Perfection of the standard template construct system permitted an explosion of colonization that reached the furthest limits of the galaxy. Okay. Now we're going to get to the end of the Golden Age. This Golden Age for humanity would not last. Warp travel became increasingly difficult, and ultimately impossible due to the great warp storms that convulsed the immaterium and would herald the violent birth of the chaos god Slanesh, and later fall of the Eldari that first began in the 25th millennium. The economy of human interstellar civilization had already been damaged by terrible wars against the Men of Iron, and the growing frequency and extent of the warp storms caused trade and communication between the human colonies to collapse, restoring the isolation of human-settled planets and star systems. Within this relative isolation, abhumans and new human mutant subspecies like the Ogrins, Ratlings, and Squats adapted to their environments and developed on several planets in the galaxy. In this situation, certain high population worlds like Terra that relied heavily on trade with the rest of humanity were suddenly unable to feed their enormous populations. Hunger and starvation followed. Those human psychers who had recently developed their powers were relatively weak and inexperienced, and at constant risk of possession by demons and other warp entities after the great warp storms began. The sudden impossibility of warp travel meant that once unified interstellar human civilization broke apart into completely isolated star system and worlds. Alright, so we're going to wind it down here. I just want to thank everybody who liked the video, and if you disliked the video, thank you for at least giving me a chance. Also, if you want a jitterless energy drink, check out Dubby Energy Drinks. Check out the link in the description.